Alright, I would say that it's better. You don't hear it right now. Silence. Every once in a while. This is on the accessory wire, we've got it. Let's see. I don't know. Blower on. You hear it just a little bit. I heard it make just a little bit of a noise through the speakers. Let's hear. See, I got nothing. Maybe we'll kill it. Crank it back up. We'll turn the radio off too. Right now I've just got it wired in, you can see where I spliced into that constant power. There's not much room to work under the dash. We are not filtering the constant power. See, I'm just spliced into it to get power from it, and then going through. I might take the noise filter off and just put it through there and just see if we're getting noise just through the ignition switch. If we got, because that would be the next test to see if hooking up that noise filter through the accessory power wire through it, see if that fixes it. I didn't want to go to that much trouble because I don't want to pull the radio back up, and that accessory power wire is really short and it's way up in the dash, so I'm working from underneath. I had to pull the vent tube off, and so this would be a for sure test. If this still had noise here, then there's no need to go through the hassle of trying to get to that short switched power to try to wire up the noise filter. But let's see how it does now. I'll see if I can pick up that noise. I heard just a slight little weird noise, but it only happened once. Crank it up, turn the radio on. Hear it? Alright, so we've got that noise. Yep. So let me hook up both. It'll just be a quick wire change. Just take that yellow wire that's going up right that way and hook it on with that blue. And that'll be running everything through the noise filter. But this is definitely better. This is the most progress we've seen. Because we're not getting that constant buzz that we were before. Like I said, just a quick wire change. So we're now feeding everything through the noise filter. Of course, the radio is still on because we don't have switched power hooked up. Turn the radio on. Silence. So we're going to do another test. Turn it on. Complete silence. So that's the fix. We're going to have to run everything through the noise filter. Now what this is going to involve, the filter will be hooked up to power all the time, and it'll be feeding into a relay. This yellow constant power will not go through the relay. This red wire will go through the relay, and what will control the relay will be our accessory power wire that originally powered the radio. So that accessory power wire will power the relay, but the power that's going to the radio will come through the noise filter. So let me find a relay that we can use for that. Alright, so we're working on getting this wired up. What I've done is I grabbed a fuse holder I pulled off of a junk radio. It has a 10 amp fuse. The radio itself still has a fuse holder. It's got a 6 amp and a 0.5, so it's 6.5. And so what I wanted, so the radio's fused, but we're about to tie in to the battery side of the fuse box. And so when I installed the radio, I was fine with doing that because the radio itself, if it's shorted or something, it'll pop the fuse. But now we're introducing a device before the fuse, which is this noise filter. So if something happened in this noise filter and it shorted out, because it does have a ground going to it, if it's shorted out, I want to have it protected also. So we're going to put a 10 amp fuse, which will basically be hooked up right here. And so that will protect this whole radio circuit. And so if something shorts out on here, it'll pop this 10 amp fuse, and if something happens to the radio will pop those two fuses. So you just want to make sure when you tie into the fuse box, either tie into a fused part of the fuse box, or if you tie into a unfused part, make sure everything you're putting has a fuse on it. So this will protect all of the stuff we're adding. So let me get this tied in, and then we will wire up our relay right over here. So we're a little overboard on the relay. This is a 40 amp relay, and we are switching a circuit that has a 0.5 amp fuse. So way overkill, but this is all I could get local. So all my Radio Shacks in my town have closed, and there's no other small electronics supply. The town where I work, there's a store that I always go to, but that's about 35 miles away, so I'm not driving in all the way there to get a small relay and save about $3 and spend more than that on gas, so in time. So we are going with this overkill 40 amp relay. So basically you've got on here post 85 and 86 will be your positive and negative to operate the relay. So my original accessory wire from the radio will be using these. So that's on that side. And then coming from the power, the noise filter, we'll go to post 30, and then, well, actually, okay, so normally you would put it to post 30, and then post 87 would be your post 87, yeah. So we'll put you could do it either way. And the reason I'm saying this is, so so this is the normally off position is what it would be. So post, with this relay off, post 30 would be connected to post 87A. And so you would be passing your power through to this. And so then post 87, when you power the relay on, the relay would flip over to here, and you would be connecting post 30 and post 87. I think I'm actually going to wire it backwards, and my reason for doing that is I'll put my hot wire right here on 87, my radio wire here on 30, and so that when this is off, we're not connecting hot over to a post that nothing's hooked up to. So if I have my hot wire here on 87, then there's no, when the ignition switch is off, post 87 is the only thing that's hot. There's no other post on this relay that would be hot. If I wired it to post 30 and then put my radio on 87, then when the ignition switch is off, post 87A would be hot. And of course, I can put some heat shrink tubing on it and it wouldn't really matter, but if I just flip those, that takes care of it. Post 87A would never be hot. So I'll just do it like that. They actually, this is RL45. They had a spot for RL44, but they were out of it. It was actually $1 cheaper, but this is the only relay the local auto parts store had. And I'm sure an RL44 probably does not have post 87A. It probably just has post 87, post 30, 86, and 85. So that's what we got. That's what we're going to work with. And I'm going to wire it up like that, just so we don't end up with that hot post when the ignition switch is off. And they are all labeled on the bottom of the relay. So we will get this all wired up. There's, like I said, 87 and 87A, post 30, and then your 85 and 86. So let me get those wired up. Alright, we've almost got it all wired up. So what I've got here, I did hook it up kind of backwards like I told y'all I would. So that we're not powering this post, but I did just stick a piece of heat shrink tubing over there. I haven't shrunk any of this yet, but each post I'm using just crimp spade terminals, and then slipping heat shrink tubing over them, and when I get them all on there, then I'll shrink them all at the same time, and that'll keep that post right there from ever touching anything, because we're just going to tie wrap this relay up under the dash, so we want to make sure no posts are showing. So the way it comes in, coming from the power filter, noise filter, we go to this side of the relay where we're sending our, this is the, when the relay is hot, it'll jumper these two. And then what controls the relay is the accessory power wire from the original radio. So this is the station memory or clock memory. This is the constant on, and then this of course is the switch side of the radio. And I just undid the fuse holder so that it's easier to work with, and then I'll tuck it up under the dash and connect everything back together. So right now I've got to go up in the dash. This is my little lead that I'm going to use for, I'm going to tie into the original ground from the radio, since I'm actually not using that now, since I've got another ground. That's it right there, and just temporarily done. I will put a connector on here and tuck it up under the dash out of the way, and it's grounding over to that bolt over there, and I'll tie this up out of the way also. But like I said, so I've got that ground up in the dash from the original radio wiring that I'll tie in. I'm just going to tie into the black stripe for the ground, and then the original radio accessory wire will tie in right here. And then I've got spade terminals on the other end that will go to my relay right here. Of course, I'll put heat shrink tubing on them, and then we'll heat shrink everything and tie it up in the dash. Have not heat shrinked anything yet or tidied up wires. Just kind of ran them in a decent spot. And we need to just tie wrap them up after we verify everything's working. Then I'll heat shrink it, and then we'll tidy them up. Well, that's a good sign. The clock's on. It just lit up. Okay, let's crank it up. So far, no noise. We don't pop through the radio anymore. So I'm going to call that a success. Now let's see. Oh, we got some noise, just a little bit. Well, and it cuts off like it should. Just a little bit of noise. I'm just going to have to live with it. It's either the radio or the noise filter is not doing its job. It's definitely a whole lot better. I'd say, let's try it again. Yeah, I can just barely hear it. Not doing it now. Before it was constant. And I wonder if it would do it. It may be doing it only through the radio. Let's see if it's just picking up radio noise. So I don't hear it. So it may be picking up some noise through the antenna. Which before, I was getting noise when I'd play through my phone also. So, right now, that's the only noise I hear. And I don't hear it when I plug up something other than through the radio. So, I think we've got a little bit of noise coming in through the antenna, but the majority of it was coming through the power lead. So we're going to call that good. Like I said, it's on right now. There's no noise. We pick up a little bit on radio, but if I'm actually driving, it's such a slight noise. If I've got the radio turned up, you're not going to hear the noise. So we're going to call that good enough. Not much I can do about it. It is what it is. It's an Optimus radio that's probably 20 years old. And probably the best I'm going to get out of it. So, thanks for watching.